Well, hello, hello, hello. How's everybody? I hope everybody's doing great tonight. I want to welcome you to Live Live, a place where we meet up to receive activational strategies for those changing and those challenging life moments. I am your host, Keela Bryson. Hey, everybody. I hope you rested up from the weekend. I hope you got some Christmas shopping in, and I hope that you are ready for Christmas as well as ready for the new year. 2015, it is rolling in quickly. You know, what are you doing? Are you working on it? Are you getting it done? Are you working it? I want you guys to email me and tell me what you've been doing since we last spoke on last Monday night. Let me know how your progress is coming along. Let me know whether or not you've written another chapter in your book. Let me know what it is you plan on doing for 2015. You know, we got to keep each other motivated and inspired. And that's part of the purpose of these Monday night calls, is to keep us inspired, connected, and motivated and uplifted to keep striving and moving forward. I don't know if any of you had a chance to go and look at my Facebook page. Today I posted a song by Dave Hollister entitled it's called Striving. And the words in that song are so inspirational to me. I tell you, every time I hear that song, I get pumped up. I mean, I can just play it in my car, and it just encourages us to not give up, to do what you got to do, to not give up, to not give in, to not surrender, to working on your purpose, fulfilling your destiny, to completing the vision that God has given you. You know, if we're going to fulfill anything in life, it's not always going to come easy. A lot of times it's a lot of hard work. But if you work it, the universe will reward you. God will reward you, and you begin to partake of the fruits of your labor. Well, you know why we're here. We're here to receive activational strategies for those challenging and changing life moments. You know, I thank you guys so much for continuing to meet up with me on Monday nights, calling in, because I do realize you guys could be doing anything. You could be listening to other conference calls, because there are plenty that are going on around, the country. And so for you to take time out of your busy schedules, especially during this holiday season, and I see the numbers from the calls, and it just really inspires me and encourages me. And it helps me to realize that I must be giving you something that's helpful or encouraging, that's keeping you going and keeping you motivated and inspired and full of hope. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking that time. It means a lot to me. All right, let's move on. Tonight's topic. Tonight I want to talk about OutThink the Opposition. That's right. OutThink the Opposition. And you may be thinking, outthink? Yes. You know, outthinking the opposition, a lot of times we don't look at our situation in that regard when we're in a battle or when we're confronting some sort of challenge. But a lot of times, if we would just learn how to think differently, think strategically, then we will win against our opponent, against whatever circumstance we may find ourselves confronting or experiencing. Because a lot of times, if we had a choice, we wouldn't want to enter all these problems and challenges. You know, we would avoid them at all costs. But unfortunately, we can't avoid many of them. We've got to go through them. And we can come out with the victory. We just got to have some strategies. We got to have some strategic moves. And we've got to be smart about how we encounter our opponent and the opposition that comes against us. You know, a lot of times we don't have to exert physical strength. Isn't it much easier to just outsmart some people for a change? You know, in the midst of our opposition, we've got to keep our head level. We got to keep our head straight, because it is with our mind that we win the battle. And we've got to remember that. Keep our head clear. Keep a level head when we're confronting opposition. That is not the time for us to lose it when we are confronting a problem or a challenge, or an attack. That's the time to level ourselves, to still ourselves and to calm ourselves down within our spirit. And so that's why I feel like tonight's topic is right on point, because so many people are in the midst of a trial or some sort of attack or a challenge, and they're losing their head over it. And when you lose your head, you are no match for the enemy. You're no match for the circumstance. We've got to keep our head. And so tonight I want to suggest to you, you can outthink the opposition. Forget all that boxing and slapping and putting people in the headlock and all that. Let's just simply outthink it. God gave you all of this up here to use, and it's time for us to really start maximizing this mind that he's given us. Studies have said that most of us are not even using, a good 50% of our brain in most cases. And so now is the time for us to begin to think strategically. Do you not know that our God is a strategic God? When you read the word of God, do you not see that he's strategic in the things that he does? Everything that he does is based upon times and seasons, and he has a reason and a purpose. He's always operating in strategies, and if we are descendants of his, if we have the DNA of God within us, then we too must become masters at being strategic at war and dealing with the opposition. So I want to open up for those of you who are on the call. I want to ask you, what's currently opposing you? What are you currently going through? And, you can ask people that all day, and you're going to get a variety of answers, and you're going to find that everybody just about is being opposed by something. Are you currently being opposed by a person, a group of persons, a circumstance, a problem, or a challenge? If you are, then tonight's call is going to help you, because I'm going to show you how to win by outthinking the opposition. It's really smooth. It's really slick, and I love God for revealing this to me, because a lot of times it's not about getting up in people's face. It's about using this up here. Yes, watch God show you how to win by using the power of your mind. In life, there will be times when we will experience opposition, and when it happens, it can be overwhelming at times, and that's the truth. Everybody can attest that when you're confronted with opposition, oh my goodness, it can be overwhelming. It can be exhausting. It can be stressful. It can be painful. I have likened dealing with the opposition like playing a game of chess. When you're playing a game of chess, every move is strategic. Every move is, you put some thought in it. Why? Because you're in it to win it. You're not sitting there to lose. You're in it to win it, and therefore, in order to win, you've got to think about every move you make when you're playing chess. And think about it, even in the sports, a lot of the sports that we watch on television, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, guess how they're winning? You may say, Keela, they're winning by the physical strength. Yeah, that's part of it, but mainly by the strategies in the mind. Yes. You first got to win in your mind. And a lot of times on the football field and on the basketball court, you see them gather up in a huddle. Guess what they're doing? They're strategizing. They're planning. They're discussing the next move. And that's how we have to be. We've got to sit down and strategize and think about this thing, because being on the court is not the time to be trying to freak out and lose your head, so to speak, and get confused and all of that. That is not the time for that. So in the game of chess, in order to win, you've got to outthink your opponent. And that's how we've got to be when we're dealing with the oppositions of life, the crises of life. In the book, The Art of War, I don't know how many of you ever read that book, but there's a book entitled The Art of War by Sun Tzu. In that book, Sun Tzu wrote, it is more important to outthink your enemy than to outfight him. It is more important to outthink your enemy than to outfight him. Do you realize that if you outthink your enemy, in most cases, you probably won't even have to bust a sweat? I have seen people do this. They are confronted with a bully. They're confronted with a group of thugs or what have you, and they are so clever. They never have to tussle and fight with this group. They simply outsmart them. They outsmart them. And do you realize that God has given us the ability to use all of this brain up here to think? To think. It's not always about a physical battle for those of you who are on the call. You young people, you young ladies, young men, it's not always about, stressing yourself out. Just use what God has given you up here. If you want to win against your opposer, whether your opposer, it could be a financial problem, it could be a business problem, it could be a marital problem, it could be problems in school. Lord knows you're going to have some problems trying to get your college education. And I remember that. I remember being in college, and it looked like there was always some sort of obstacle to try to overcome. And if I had been weak, I could have thrown in the towel and given up, because it just seemed like, am I ever going to graduate? I went through all kind of obstacles with financial aid. Once I became married, I no longer qualified for financial aid, and so I'm trying to figure out how in the world am I going to go to school, and how am I going to finish this? And at one point I had to sit out for a number of years. But I kept thinking about that thing. I kept seeking God, asking him to show me how to go back without, having the Pell Grant and all. And God showed me how to do it. One day he just told me to go back to the financial aid office and speak with them about it. And I spoke with them about it, and that day that I went in there, the lady that was working in there, she was like, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. You qualify for it? And I was like, what? I was so shocked. But all that worrying and stressing that I was doing, trying to figure out, and almost just becoming sad about it, because, I wanted to finish college. But God created a way. But I had to sit down in that huddle mode and begin to seek God. And at the instruction of the Holy Spirit, God began to tell me what to do. And I moved on it. I moved upon the instruction. And as a result, I didn't have to go through what I thought I was going to have to go through, which meant probably going and getting a full-time job, trying to work a full-time job, and then go to school, pay my way through college by working that full-time job. I didn't have to do any of that. I didn't have to bust a sweat. All I had to do was use my mind. I began to go and strategize with God. I began to tell God about it. And God spoke to me one day and told me what to do. And at that moment, I obeyed, and as a result, I was able to finish. Do you know how many battles we can avoid physically if we would just learn to seek God, get in that huddle with God, and allow him to speak to us? And then we've got to humble ourselves enough to go and obey. Because I could have said, now I know that's not God. I already gone to these folks, and they told me that I don't qualify. And so why in the world, God, would I go again when they've already told me? But you know what? God had opened a portal for me at that moment, and I had to move at that moment because the waters were troubled. And so that is an example of how we can outthink the opposition. I had to go and think and talk to God, and God began to download to my mind what I needed to do. And so you do the same. I have so many testimonies similar to that, where it looked like it was just hopeless. But yet, God began to show me how to do it. But if I had not sought him, if I had not sat down and began to ponder in my mind, Lord, show me how to do this. I know there has to be a way. And there's always a way. One thing that I have learned about God is that he got a lot of secret escape doors in this earth. He got a lot of hidden doors and secret passageways that we know not of. Think about the children of Israel. They experienced a secret passageway in the Red Sea. They didn't know that there was a secret passage that God can open up anything for us. And so we gotta seek him and then let him download to us, to our mind, the strategy. That's what these Monday night calls are part of the purpose of this, It's to help us get strategies on how to live lives, how to live a life of success and fulfillment, and the life that the Bible speaks and describes to us that we're supposed to possess. So if you are currently experiencing a financial problem, a business problem in your business, or marital problems, a whole lot of people experience marital problems. But if we begin to seek God on how to be a better mate, then we will begin to have success in our marriages too. It's not hard as we think it is. We just need the strategy. And God has the strategies for success, but we must get in that huddle. So all I'm simply saying is to you is start out thinking your enemy and not fighting them physically. All you need to do is just strategize in your mind. Use your mind, not your fist. Use your mind, not drugs. Use your mind, not alcohol. You don't have to get tangled up in all these things that'll lead you down the wrong path while you're in pursuit of trying to win against the enemy. You don't have to do any of that. Some people even think that they got to go and do witchcraft and all that to win against their opponent. You don't even have to do any of that. Just begin to outthink them. Begin to seek God so he can show you how to win against your enemy. What does it mean to outthink? If I say I'm going to outthink something, what does that mean? Well, the dictionary defines outthink as to excel in thinking, to think faster, to think more accurately, Lord knows, more accurately. Sometimes we need to sit down and think because the way that we're thinking is not accurate. The way that I was thinking in that school situation was, they said I didn't qualify. But do you know that was not accurate? And so to outthink a situation is when you get accurate information, an accurate perception about something. It means to take advantage of or to be quick, clever in your thinking. It means to outwit. It means that, they're telling you one thing and you've already identified a way around the situation. Or they've told you what the rules are and it looks like you can't win based upon the situation you're confronting. And then all of a sudden God will show you he'll show you a loophole, so to speak. So he is the key. God is our key. I think about the movie Mad Money. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Mad Money, but I enjoy watching that movie. I know them stealing that money wasn't right, but my goodness, you got to give them their props on the strategy that they came up with on how to get that money out of there. They were very smart. And it's amazing what this mind up here can think of when we really sit down and allow it a chance to come up with some things. Think about these criminals out here. They can come up with stuff, and it will just absolutely blow your mind at how they can come up with some strategies. And a lot of times it may be illegal, but you have to give them props at how clever the ideal is. Now, if criminals and people who do wrong can think of ways to come up with strategies to win and doing wrong, now surely us as believers can come up with ways to win and do it in a right way. Come on, people. We've got to outthink the opposition. And tonight, I'm motivating you to think that way, to begin to think strategically, to begin to think of how you can look and how you can obtain the advantage in the situation, in a right way. All right. So based upon the definition that I've just given you, we are going to win by utilizing strategy and understanding. Strategy and understanding. You got to have a strategy. You first got to understand everything. You got to understand the rules. You got to understand how things work. And then after that, you've got to begin to ask God to download the strategy for you. Which is, which is all of this is a part of our Monday night call, gaining strategy and understanding for life and the issues of life, the crises of life, the trials of life. We need strategy. We need understanding. And once you have that, then you can begin to advance forward against the opponent. We are here to, as I said, we're going to have challenging moments. We're going to always have changing moments. And as a result, when we're challenged and when life begins to change, we got to change the way we think. We've got to begin to change how we address the situation. You know, a lot of times old strategies and stuff sometimes don't always work on every problem that you may find yourself confronting. But if you begin to see God, He always has an answer and a strategy for whatever you're dealing with. The problem is, or the challenges on our part is, are we going to obey it? Because a lot of times the strategies that God will give us, it will go against our logic. And a lot of times it feels like it's insulting our intelligence. But you know what? You better obey God. I don't care how ridiculous it is. You got too much information in the Bible which lets us know that that's how God operates. So if you feel like He's giving you a crazy thought or a crazy strategy, then you should know that that's probably God, because the Bible is full of stories and situations where He moved in situations that seemed like it was crazy. But He did. He helped people. He delivered people by them just simply obeying something that seemed ridiculous. But that's how our God moves. That's how He works. And the more we trust Him and build a relationship with Him, the more we'll be able to move at those ridiculous instructions, because we had a relationship. We trust Him. We know Him. We know that that's how He operates. All right. You know, as Live Live people, I've been going around saying, live live, tweeting, live live, you know, posting and tweeting my book promotion. Live live. You know, in order to live live, we must possess some winning wisdom. And who is the author of good, healthy, winning wisdom? God is. And so if we're going to live live, we got to get that wisdom. We got to get that strategy so that we can win. You know, the Bible says that the children of this world are wiser than the children of light. That's found in Luke 16:8. And that is so sad. Don't let that be found the true among you or about yourself. In that story in Luke 16, it talks about the cricket manager and how this cricket manager had been overspending his boss's money. And the boss found out about it, and the boss said, look, I've heard you've been overspending my money. You're fired, and bring me the books because I want to see what you've been doing. So this cricket manager, what he did, he decided that, hey, I've got to do something. You know, I'm going to be out on the street. I can't get a job because, you know, he came up with these reasons why he couldn't get a job because he was too weak and all this. And he said, you know what, I know I'm going to get fired. I'm going to be put out on the street. I'm not going to have anywhere to go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call in everybody that owes my boss, and I'm going to cut them a deal. You know, I'm going to write off some of their debt. If they owe my boss 50 bundles of wheat, then 100 bundles of wheat, then I'm going to make a deal and tell them, okay, we can settle it if you can just give me 80. If they owe him 100 of this, I'm going to settle it. You can just give me 50. And you know what he was doing? He was protecting himself. He began to develop some creative survival skills because he knew he was going to be out on the street. And those people would remember that he cut a deal with them, and he would find favor with them, compassion with them. They would help him because they will remember that he helped them. Now, what he did was not right, but Jesus gave him his props for having enough business savvy, enough wit, and enough being clever enough to come up with a way to sustain himself. And like I said, if the wicked can come up with ways to sustain themselves and come up with creative survival techniques and strategies, then what about the people of God? We have got to be sharp in our minds and in our thinking. We've got to be savvy, business savvy. We've got to be savvy in how we live our life. We should not be one of those that think that we're going to just get by because of all of our goodness. That's good, but God expects us to be smart. He expects us to be intelligent. He expects us to be wise. He doesn't want the world to outsmart us, to be wiser than us. We've got to have some street sense, yes. We've got to have some book sense, yes. We've got to have some common sense, yes. And I tell my girls, yes, you got to have some spiritual sense. Now, if you got all four of those working for you, You should not be able to lose in nothing. You should always come out on top. But you've got to learn how to utilize and exercise those 4 areas. Do not let the world be smarter than us, and we are the children of God. We should be able to go in the boardroom at the conference table and cut some major deals that will blow people's minds. You know, the other day I was listening to a story on Facebook, and it was a caption of Michael Jackson, and he was talking about his situation with Sony. And Michael Jackson was saying that, you know, Sony, how they wasn't a good company, and how most people that work for them at the end, how they end up broke and without any money. And so Michael was saying how that they thought he was so caught up in his singing and in his dancing. And he said, and I was, but at the same time, Michael, he said he had an eye on them. They didn't know that he was strategizing against them. And at the end of the relationship, Michael became a free agent, and he ended up owning half of Sony in the publishing side of Sony. And he only owed them one album, I think he said. And he said that he had written 120, but he only owed them one. You know, that is awesome. Michael, they thought he was dumb, but he wasn't that dumb. They thought he was drugged up and high, but he wasn't that drugged up and high. He was able to end up with half of the ownership of Sony Publishing. Now, what does that say to us? What's wrong with us and our sober selves? We should be winning like that. We should be negotiating like that. We should be downloading some ideas from God that cause people to just stand back in awe that we even came up with something as magnificent as we're offering them or negotiating with them. It's time for us to win. It's time for us to outthink the opposition. We better follow the examples of Michael and follow the examples of the man in Luke 16 and 8. We got to get our game face on. We got to get our strategy together. We are not here to just live life and be goody good all the time and then still walking around without possessing what God said we're supposed to possess. We got to think smart. We got to be smart. We got to be sharp. Yes, that's what I'm challenging you to be. You know, a lot of times when we're in our problem or dealing with our struggle, a lot of times, oh my goodness, I am running out of time. I have really gone over time. I have 3 minutes. A lot of times when we're confronted with a problem or a situation or a challenge, we may feel like we're the underdog because we feel like we don't have any way out. We may feel trapped. You know, or we may feel a little disoriented because the problem seems to be so huge and magnanimous, so to speak. And it'll cause you to feel like you're the underdog. You know, we may look like we don't even have the wherewithal to win, but you know what? That's okay. I have learned that when you look like you are in the underdog position, that's when you need to capitalize off of being seen as the underdog. In the Bible, the story with Jacob did this. He was the underdog, and Laban was the upper dog, so to speak. But in the end, Jacob outthought Laban. Laban was taking advantage of Jacob. Jacob was trying to get from up under him, but Laban always came up with something else, which caused Jacob to end up having to work for him for more years and more years. But one day, Jacob began to seek God, and God gave Jacob a strategy that outsmarted Laban, and as a result, Jacob was able to break free from his bondage. You know, if he had not strategized, if he had not sought God, if he had not huddled up with God, he would not have received that strategy to get from up under Laban's bondage. Another example of being the underdog, David did the same thing with Goliath. David appeared to be the underdog. He appeared to be physically incapable of defeating Goliath. But you know what? All of that plays into David's favor. When people underestimate us, this is a strategy for us to use in overcoming our opponent, because when they see us as an underdog or if they see us as being incapable, what happens is they'll begin to let down their guard, so to speak, because they feel like we are no match for them. But when they do that, that's the time we step in for the kill, because they don't expect us to be able to carry out the job or to fulfill the job or to conquer them or to outthink them. So use being the underdog and use being seen as incapable to your advantage. Continue to play that role like Michael Jackson did. He continued to play like, oh, I'm so into my music and my performance. and they thought he wasn't paying attention to what they was doing. They had no clue he was strategizing against their behind. And we've got to do the same. You know, Jacob did it. David did it, and we're going to start doing it. We're going to be more watchful and sensitive to opportunities to outthink the opponent so that we can have the advantage. It's time out for God's people being last in line. No more. We're not doing it. We're going to start executing this strategy. You know, Goliath thought that David couldn't take him down, and I think he let his guard down, and when David popped him with that rock and took him down, I don't know, did he have a heart attack from thinking that, oh, my goodness, this little guy did it? You know, it may have put him in a state of shock. And that's how many of us are going to be with these strategies that God is going to begin to download to us. We're going to put people in shock. They're going to be like, oh, my goodness, they did that. How in the world did they did that? They don't have the education. They don't have the money. They've been struggling in this area and struggling in that area. They didn't have the support that you think that a person needs, but God can still help a person. All we need is God and his strategy to help us to get it done. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. We're going to start outthinking the opposition. All right. So you're asking, Keeler, how do I outthink the opposition? You're going to think, and then you're going to outthink. You're going to think, and then you're going to outthink. You're going to think, and then you're going to outthink the opponent. Here are 4 steps of what we need to do in order to outthink the opposition. Number 1, set aside time for strategic thinking. You know, this strategic thinking is planned thinking, tactical thinking, calculated thinking. And then you're doing this strategic thinking time, you need to determine what is your goal. What is it that you want? What you know, Michael, he wanted 50% of Sony. He wanted some ownership. What did David want? David wanted the prize that would be given to the person that could take out Goliath. What is it that you want? Okay? Then you need to seek God for the strategy. What I wanted when I was in college and undergrad, I wanted to be able to complete my undergraduate degree without having to get a student loan. Figure out what you want and then begin to seek God for the strategy. Do you want to be a free agent? Do you want ownership? Do you want peace? Do you want victory? Do you want to be comfortable? Do you want to be successful? Well, seek God for the strategy. Number 2, you need to get understanding. David did his research. He asked questions. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine is what he asked. He needed to know who this guy was. He wanted to learn his enemy, research his enemy. And we've got to be the same way. You never go against an opponent and you haven't researched them to understand what it is that they like. You know, you got to study them. You got to find out what it is that turns them on. You got to identify their weakness. And then you got to find out what's in it for me. David was like, what's in it for me? And when he found out what was in it for him, he went for it. And a lot of times what we need to do, if we find out what's in it for us, that will be a big motivation, a big motivating factor to help us begin to really pursue strategizing so that we can outthink the opposition. We have God on our side. Nobody should be outthinking us. Nobody should be coming up, presenting us with deals and where we're falling short or getting the short end of the deal. No more. The third thing you need to do is keep working. David served his brothers. Jacob kept on serving Laban. Michael Jackson kept on writing all his songs and going out there dancing and singing like nothing was going on. You know what I'm saying? He kept working. We got to keep working. That's making everybody think ain't nothing going on. They getting comfortable. They think they got us under control. They think they got us up under their thumb, so to speak, and all the time they don't realize, okay, this strategy, I'm working on this strategy. I'm thinking, I'm meditating, and now I'm getting ready to outthink you. Keep on working. And the 4th thing we've got to do, once God begins to download us that strategy, we have got to execute the strategy perfectly. Execute the strategy perfectly. Do not deviate from what God told you to do. Follow the strategy to the exact point, the way that God gave it to you, perfectly. Because when you do it perfectly, then the plan and the strategy is going to work in your favor perfectly. And that, ladies and gentlemen, those of you on the call, those of you who want to live life, those of you who God has a call on your life, this is how you're going to outthink the opposition. This is what you do in order to win. This is what you're going to do in order to win against your business problem, your marital problems, your financial problems, whatever the problem is. Seek God the strategy, and he will show you how to outthink the situation. The situation think it has you held hostage. The situation thinks it has you tied up, trapped, backed up in a corner. But you know what? It doesn't. The situation doesn't realize that you serve a God who has secret escape routes. That's it. Nothing can stop you and trap you up. God will open up the Red Sea. He'll open up the ground if he has to. He'll open up the roof if he has to. He will do what he has to do. He will open up a portal for you so that you can get the victory and outthink your opposition. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a teachable life moment where it is absolutely necessary and imperative that we live life every day and all day. No more defeat. No more falling victim to the enemy and his strategy. It's time for us to succeed and to possess what God says we should possess. You know, if you would like to connect with me, I'm on Facebook at Teachable Life Moments. I'm on Twitter at Keeler Savant. You can visit my website at KeelerBryson.com. And you can email me if you like with your questions, your feedback. My email address is Keeler@KeelerBryson.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the calls every week. I really enjoy meeting up with you, and I really enjoy the study time that God gives, the information that he gives to me to present to you guys. And I really pray that it's helping you, strengthening you, and encouraging you to move forward in whatever it is you're endeavoring to do. I will see you guys at the same place, same time next week. Until then, have a fantastic week and have a Merry, Merry Christmas. Goodbye.